does not want his absence to become a permanent emotional wound. The scene also allows the audience to see the cost of incarceration through the perspective of family rather than through crime or punishment. The prison uniform is not merely clothing. It is a symbol. Curtis removes the identity he has carried through Port Charles and puts on the identity assigned to him by the prison system. He surrenders his belongings. He walks through intake. The doors close. And suddenly, Curtis Ashford is no longer able to walk out whenever he wants. That visual finality makes the storyline powerful. But there is another emotional layer involving Portia. Portia intentionally stays away from breakfast because she believes her absence is better for everyone. That decision says more than an argument ever could. Sometimes family conflict reaches a point where presence itself becomes painful. Portia may believe she is protecting Curtis, Trina, Jordan, and herself by staying away, but emotional distance rarely eliminates pain. It simply changes the way that pain is expressed. Curtis entering prison therefore becomes a turning point for the entire Ashford Robinson family. Jordan has a new responsibility. Trina has a new emotional burden. Portia is forced to live with the consequences of staying away. And Curtis has to discover who he is when the freedom he took for granted disappears. Then the episode shifts from Curtis's emotional prison story to Sonny Corinthos' very different experience behind the same walls. Sonny walks into Pentonville not as a prisoner, but as a free man. And he makes sure Jen Sidwell notices. The confrontation between Sonny and Sidwell is not simply about business. It is psychological warfare. Sonny enters the prison with something Sidwell does not have: freedom. That alone gives Sonny a certain advantage. But Sonny wants more than to remind Sidwell that he is free. He wants Sidwell to understand that the balance of power has changed. Sonny taunts him. He talks about moving toward legitimate business. He talks about the future. And he makes it clear that Sidwell's downfall could actually help Sonny accomplish something he has struggled with for years: leaving the mob behind. That is one of the most fascinating elements of Sonny's current storyline. For decades, Sonny's identity has been tied to organized crime, territory, power, fear, and survival. Now he is presenting Sidwell's defeat as part of his transition into legitimate business. But there is an obvious question. Can Sonny really walk away from the world that made him powerful? Or is he simply finding a new way to maintain control? The upcoming asset auction makes that question even more complicated. Sonny plans to claim Sidwell's operations. From a purely business perspective, that could look like opportunity. From Sidwell's perspective, it is theft. And from the audience's perspective, it is another indication that Sonny's path toward legitimacy may still be filled with morally complicated decisions. Sidwell refuses to accept Sonny's victory. He brings up the past. He reminds Sonny about Marco. He mentions Michael's injuries. Those references are not random. Sidwell understands that Sonny's greatest vulnerability has never been money. It has been family. Every time Sonny thinks he has won, someone reminds him of the people who have paid the price for his choices. Sidwell's warning therefore lands differently than a simple threat. He is telling Sonny that the war has not ended just because one battle has gone badly for Sidwell. Sonny may walk out of Pentonville, but Sidwell's anger walks out with him through the memory of everything that has already happened. That is what makes the ending of their confrontation ominous. Sonny is confident. Sidwell is imprisoned. But neither man is finished. And that means the asset auction could become more than a business event. It could become the next battlefield. The corporate storyline then moves toward Drew Kane. Drew is attempting something that requires humility. He wants his old position at Aurora Media back. And to make that happen, he approaches Michael. But Michael is skeptical. That skepticism is completely understandable. Drew's history with the people around him makes forgiveness complicated. An apology is easy to make. Trust is much harder to rebuild. Drew's olive branch therefore faces an immediate problem. Michael may be willing to listen, but listening does not mean accepting. The question is whether Drew genuinely wants reconciliation or simply wants his old position restored. Those are two very different motivations. If Drew wants the job because he needs power again, Michael has every reason to hesitate. If Drew wants to rebuild the relationship because he finally understands what his choices have cost him, then perhaps there is a path forward. But Michael cannot make that determination based on one conversation. Actions will matter more than words. And that is where Drew's storyline becomes particularly interesting. He is trying to return to a world that has changed without him. Aurora has new leadership. Jordan is stepping into a major role. Michael is making decisions. Curtis is going to prison. The company itself is entering a new era. Drew cannot simply walk back through the door and expect everything to be waiting for him. Even if Michael eventually says yes, the old Aurora may be gone forever. Meanwhile, Danny and Charlotte are playing a much more dangerous game. The two teenagers continue their secret scheme against Drew. Their motives may be understandable from their perspective, but their methods are becoming increasingly risky. They believe they can control information. They believe they can manipulate circumstances. They believe Drew deserves whatever consequences they can create. But teenagers plotting in secret often make one dangerous mistake. They underestimate how quickly secrets travel. Rocco overhears their conversation. That changes everything. Rocco may not understand every detail of what Danny and Charlotte are planning, but simply knowing that something secret is happening puts pressure